Second, one.
Yeah.
I'll let you. All right, awesome sauce. Everybody, what's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to another episode of Coffee Chat. This is a good one here. We're talking farming and real estate. We've got 3 segments on this show. And just in case you didn't know, my name is Solandia Hammond, aka Sueham baby, and my guest is Davian McKnight. So just before I turn the mic over to him and let him introduce himself and tell what he does, just know we have 3 hot segments here. We're going to be talking farming and self-sufficiency, land ownership and wealth building, and real estate investing and financial growth. So, Davian, welcome to Coffee Chat.
Hey, good morning, Sue. Pleasure to be with you.
Hey, real quick, while I share this broadcast, can you please go ahead and tell the people who you are and what you do?
That's somewhat a double-edged sword, because it depends on when people meet you. So if you follow my journey on the internet, you may see me developing real estate and lifting weights, hence the name Lifting Weights in Real Estate. Since then, I started that Instagram handle, and let's call it 2017. I have transcended where I was to where I am now. And I'm in a different segment of real estate investing, being the land, right? So for me, what I'm doing, as you and I discussed earlier, I'm taking people from the inception phase when they have the idea to the end state. So in real estate, it would be from buying the dilapidated property that you and I have done very well at to bringing it into something that is a resource beautified in the community. With farming, I've taken a different avenue of investing from planting the seed to harvesting to your table. So whole circle, 360 degrees, full circle, it brings it all together. And I think that's what we need to share today to give people more granularity and understanding.
All right. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I had to take that from Saturday Night Live. I love it. I love it. I love it. Molly Spearman.
Right.
Listen, this is Coffee Chat. So we're just basically having like a little conversation. It's informal, but I did take the liberty of preparing some questions because it's not only things that I know my audience wants to know, but I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm very selfish on this show. It's stuff I want to know.
Right. That's
so
fair.
again, thank you for being here. In today's climate, I think we can see why farming and self-sufficiency is significant. But from your perception, your viewpoint, why do you think that farming is so important, and how does it contribute to self-sufficiency?
Well, so let's start with our communities and our neighborhoods, right? Most of us, if you live in rural South Carolina, like many of us do, or any other place across the United States, most of those small towns are rural areas. You're oversaturated with convenience stores, but they're very inconvenient because nothing in the store is actual food product. You go to the grocery store and now you're competing for eggs because the USDA, this is a good segue actually, as of yesterday, the USDA predicts that egg prices will go up 40% this year. In January.
I saw that.
So when you see things like that, you start realizing there's a scarce resource. But like real estate, sometimes there's a disconnect from information, because when people say that, hey, we have the bird flu and we have birds dying, people aren't discerning the understanding that a laying hen and a meat bird are 2 different things. So we're being told by marketing. Land's more important now, because if you live in an HOA, someone is still telling you what you can and what you can't do, even if it means your survivability. You may have enough money to pay your rent or pay your mortgage, and food may be the thing that you lack in, and you may want to plant something on the little land you do have, which is your front yard. HOA won't allow that. So when you start looking at these situations, we're so quick to take our resources and run into someone's neighborhood, but we don't know the rules. And those rules are specified in that HOA that says, hey, you can't do these said things. And when you do them, we're going to violate you. That violation then stacks up, and now you're paying more fines. Now you're further reducing your connection from your food. So we took it from the convenience store. Now, if you look at the grocery store, 75% of what you find on inside of a grocery store is made from 2 farm products, soybean and cornmeal. So now the food you're buying is not even real food. But imagine if you had 1 acre. I'm not saying a person needs a massive amount of land, but what I am saying is if you have something where the rules aren't against you, meaning you're moving into a community that has a HOA, you can start planting some of your own food. That's the importance of food right now, because everything that we touch and consume has some element of causing cancer. So this is way bigger than what we spend money on, is what we put in our bodies as well.
Ooh, you said, wow, okay. I'm just going to unpack just a few things because I learned so much right there. I didn't even think about HOA, about growing your own food in your front yard. And then if you have an HOA, 9 times out of 10, that's a no-go. So how do you feed yourself in the food desert if you have land in an area that is controlled by all of these rules? So I told my children, I said, we were relocated from King Street to Conway, Myrtle Beach area. And I told my children, I said, I'm going to go back. I want to buy land in the rural area, because land ownership is so important. And if you're just joining, guys, this will be on a replay. I think this is one of these episodes that you definitely should go back and watch and share over and over and over again. So, and you pretty much laid it out here, but if you could just give us two of the biggest benefits of owning farmland, what would that be?
Well, so like everyone else, everyone wants to save a dollar. So let's look at it I want to give you two different perspectives. The first being, if I'm a traditional real estate investor, I'm going to have depreciation. I'm going to have some tax write-offs from amortization, you name it, right? There's a whole gambit, capital improvements, capital expenditures, so on and so forth. But when I'm owning land, the truck that I buy, the gross vehicle weight rate is 6,400 pounds. That's going to be a full tax write-off for me. Right, my tax exemption, if I own more than 10 acres, I'm going to qualify for the South Carolina agriculture tax exemption or skate card. That means anything I buy related to farm-based products is going to be tax exempt. I don't pay taxes on that either. The other aspect of it is I can lower my property taxes, my vehicle taxes for my truck. Typically, someone with the truck I have would pay $1,600. I've been blessed to pay $164. So there's tons of cost benefits that saves you money because you're providing a service that everyone in society needs. Everyone needs a farmer. Everyone. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, is there money available out there for farmers? Because you're right, we need farmers, and I don't know. You may know, but I'm thinking that there are less farmers today than it was back, say, when my grandfather was alive. 45 years ago.
Well, so I would say, to caveat and preface what you said, 2% defends America. We're both Marine Corps veterans. 1% feeds America. So when you think about the priorities of our nation, the military has a recruiting budget. They go out and they seek people to serve country, but we don't have enough farmers. The adage right now is old farmers can't get out because young farmers aren't coming in. And when people think of farmer, they're thinking of, I have to have row crops and acres and acres. But if you're a small producer and we start the barter system, what this creates is group economics. If you're growing a few things that I'm not growing and I'm growing a few things that you're not growing, now we can trade off the same way we share information, trade craft, recipes. The same thing applies when it comes to agriculture and real estate. So it's really a point where we have this opportunity to work together, but we're all in our own individual silos. So we don't really see what's happening around us. Marketing is the strongest thing. So I heard this adage and the guy said, he basically broke it down. There's two things in this world. There's God, and then there's marketing. Everything you do, you're being influenced by someone. So people are telling you land's not important, but if you look at some of these more developed states, they're literally converting farmland into places for homes. We're basically going to develop ourselves out of a place to eat. So when you look at it from that position, you understand the importance of farmland. Lab grown meat, hormonal meat, where they're putting injections in with this recent bird flu. Now their solution is, hey, we're going to inject the birds with this particular vaccine so it can be immune, but you're going to consume that. So byproduct of you eating those things, those items, that's how you consume them, and they're now in your body, and your body may not be meant to respond to it that way. So this is way bigger than real estate and just agriculture itself. It comes down to your health.
And I think it's so funny. I think that when you put it that way, we should really jump on the bandwagon and get some land and start growing our own food. But I will be very, very honest with you. You can tell somebody you're going to die from cancer if you don't stop smoking cigarettes, and the average person is still going to continue to smoke cigarettes, and they don't even have to be smoking cigarettes. It's just eating healthier. And I am challenging myself to do better because, I had colon cancer and I was blessed. It was stage 2 and I'm still here, but my father wasn't that way. He transitioned from colon cancer. And you would think that because I have someone so close to me transition, that I would take better care of my health. And I'm really trying to be more aware of that and put things in place. But that is, I think, my biggest weakness in life is taking care of me, always taking care of other people. And so I turn 51 next month. And so that's one of my things is to put sueham first.
Right. And I
Um,
think with that, if you allow me, I think
sure.
with that, when it comes to farming, you're taking care of something, right? I look at farming as more of a spiritual journey because no one gets to
Mm,
this space without hoping or praying that you're going to get a result from it. What I mean by that is if you're like, if you're atheist, you don't plant a seed and hope it's going to grow. You pray that it grows, right? So this is a faith-based occupation. You're doing something for the betterment of others, but you also start paying attention to the small details. Right now, I can show you an image of my pasture and I can show you my neighbor's pasture. My neighbor's pasture is lush green right now. But if you look at the time of year, you know that it's not a normal thing. So now you start saying, well, why is his grass greener than mine? The old adage is the Marine Corps, don't let the green grass fool you, don't let it change.
mm,
So what you find is they're spraying chemicals on theirs and mine is in its natural state. So the same thing we're seeing in society, too many things are competing with your attention. So we're quick to rush in and get the house with the white picket fence. And we call that the American dream, but that is really the American nightmare because you're paying 7 to 9% interest. So now by virtue of you owning the land, again, we go back to group economics. If me, you, and 5 other people decide we're going to buy 100 acres of land, we divide that land up amongst each other, 10 acre parcels. We reap the tax benefit. We're sharing the resources, and we have a communal space where we all operate. So now people aren't necessarily encroaching on you per se. When you have Thanksgiving, you have a communal spot. What that also creates is a functionality of group economics in the sense we have one Costco account, we have one
mm,
Starbucks account. So think about the aggregate of savings that you could have if you start thinking along those lines.
mm. You're definitely not the average farmer. You look nothing like my grandfather. You speak nothing like my grandfather did. And I am hoping that as people see this, they understand that farmers are different today.
Right.
To look at you, I would never think, oh, he's a farmer. I would
Right.
never think that. But yet, everything that you're saying about it being a spiritual process and about group economics and about bettering our health, all of this is tying right back to farming. And it's so important. And another point you said, I don't want to gloss over it. Everywhere you look, there's new development going up,
Right.
right? But we don't see new farms springing up. So, how are we going to feed ourselves in the future? These are things that we need to think about. Wow. So, how does well, you pretty much covered that, how farming contributes to financial independence and sustainability. Is
Right.
there anything else you wanted to add to that or?
Well, I would also say is like what people see in the news and they see, oh, well, Taylor Swift's flying this place and she's buying these carbon credits. Again, we're being played by marketing. But when you plant pine trees that pull some of the carbon out of the atmosphere, and that's kind of lessening some of the burden that we have on the universe. The example I would give you, we just had snow a few weeks ago, and then we had a heat wave, and then we had cold again. You know, that's climate change. That's a real thing. So when you think about it, the practices that we're having, the things that we're fighting so hard to leave for our kids, there may not be anything left for the future generations at the rate that we're going.
Mm, wow. I think about that often, and it is a scary, scary, scary thought. And I'm wondering, and I guess I should ask my mom while she's still yet alive. Let me just drop that in there. If you've got elders that are close to you that are still alive, question them, become curious, find out how it was, how they did things back in the day. But I wonder, and I wonder if my mom wondered, like, if we're going to be okay, because when y'all look at how things are happening and it seems like more emphasis is placed on capitalism and less people care about the earth. You mentioned climate change. I'm just wondering if my grandson and his children are going to be okay.
So what I would say to that, anytime a matriarch or patriarch transitions and we don't have that information, a library burns down. So we learn from our history going into the future because they have those hidden secrets. The example I would give, my grandfather was a farmer. My uncle was the first Black police officer in the city of Lake City. I found that out when I was 30 years old when I graduated from the police academy. No one knew to tell me that because I wasn't in a space. And the more I started getting into agriculture, the more I started learning about my history. Then my father tells me, well, my granddad was a farmer as well. So what that creates is I'm a third generation farmer, first generation farm owner. My mother goes to church one day and she comes back with a sermon. And she says, the preacher gave me a message for you, but he didn't necessarily say your name. And as she goes on and she kind of explains it, the monologue of what the sermon was about is sometimes it skips a generation. So my grandfather's ambition was to own his own farm and to own a house. He owned an amazing house on Greenhaven in Lake City. So my grandfather got the house, I got the farm. That's the history. So those are the stories that we have to tell in the future. So we actually truly know where we're coming from.
Mm. Yes, Sonia Rogers says yes, yes. That's so true. I just want to drop this tidbit of information. Like growing up, we always learned about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Always, always, always. But I had no idea that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had been in King Street, South Carolina, and spoke to a crowd of 5,000 people. I didn't learn that until I was in my 30s.
Right.
And I was like, wow, but you teach me every year about this man, but you don't tell me that he was in my county and that he delivered a speech to over 5,000 people. So it's very important. Like you said, we have to pass those stories on because those are our libraries. What are the best crops or livestock for beginners to start with on a farm?
Well, I would caution people, typically, if I'm trying to encourage anyone to get into the agriculture space, the first thing I would do is tell you, start with a plant, with a house plant. And what it does is, if you are neglecting that plant and that plant's dying, now it's self-reflective. What's so busy in my life that I can't take care of a plant that only needs water and only needs light? So this is a gauge how you can assess yourself. The second thing I would say is start with things that you eat. So spring is amongst us and people are going to start planting and getting their gardens ready. But sometimes we plant things that we don't consume ourselves. I had the same issue when I started the Top Notch Community Garden just around the corner from one of your properties. And the things that I consume, artichoke, bok choy, maybe the community doesn't. But I know as I continuously put effort in there every single year, I can now expose them and expose their palates to new things. That kind of opens the aperture for them to be willing to try things. So what I would say is, if you can get someone to just start with a house plant, that's the first element of it. And once you figure you can keep that house plant alive, now you want to try your hands at something else. The curious mind opens up in so many different arrays that now you're going to start tapping into other people. You start visiting the local farmers markets, and then you start seeing the things that you're willing to try. And once you know you like those things, you start asking more questions. That's a seed in and of itself. And once you plant that seed will continue to grow and expand in your life, and you're going to pass that down to the next generations. So there is no right or wrong answer. It's really just starting with the basic elements of taking care of something and also letting that thing take care of you.
My. I never even thought of it from that perspective, is starting with a plant,
Right.
starting with something that you like, and then letting that blossom into something bigger if you desire.
Yes.
So I want to throw this. Okay, I start with a plant in my house. Now, do I need a huge space in my backyard to grow a garden?
Oh,
Or
no.
okay, so it's not the traditional, because I grew up on 2 acres and my mom and dad 6 kids, right? So we had a huge freaking garden that we had to work.
Well, and so you can do square foot gardening, right? You can start with 2 raised beds and you break those beds down into different zones. There's a guy who wrote a really good book. His name is Mel Bartholomew. And what he writes is the book Square Foot Gardener. And he kind of breaks that down. A lot of these things you can get from your public library. I wouldn't buy them on Audible because it's more of a visual book. But when you start tapping into what other people are doing, there are no original ideas. Everyone's borrowing from someone else. So by virtue of me seeing what he was doing, I said, hey, well, let me try this at the community garden. And when other people see it, we have a small little QR code that we'll leave up. You can scan it. It takes you to the information. And now you can adopt that into your practice and your principles. But again, I would encourage you to grow things that you're already consuming, and you're going to quickly taste the difference in the food. And I think once you understand that, you're going to be hooked.
Wow. So we got Miss Godiva Demon Bay says grand top of the day. Sonia says, I can't keep any plant alive. she says she's going to start an indoor garden.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Again, that's self-reflective. So asking yourself, well, what am I doing? Because now you become an investigator. You start investigating, you start learning more. You start learning about how a plant synthesizes light and everything else. Well, hey, maybe it's too much sun exposure. Maybe it's not enough sun exposure. The same gauges we do for anything else in our life. If my gas light comes on, that's an indicator. The same thing is true for your plant. That's indicative of something I'm doing right or I'm not doing enough of.
You're so matter-of-factly with that. Like, you can't even challenge that, man. You just got to accept that and deal with it and be better. Right. At least that's how I'm taking it. And I'm going to challenge myself to start an indoor plant and see what that does. Because I've been telling my kids that I want us to do a garden, and I talk. Been saying it for about 2-3 years. And now it's time to walk.
So what you're saying is I need to meet you at Lowe's or Home Depot and show you the materials you're going to need to build it.
Yes, sir.
All
Pretty much. Pretty much. What are some common misconceptions about buying and owning land? And before you speak to that, here's something I learned. Guys, follow him on TikTok too. So here's tell him your TikTok handle real quick.
So TikTok is Weights in Real Estate, but if you want to see, beginning to end, follow me on Instagram at Lifting Weights in Real Estate, because I dispatch animals there and I show you the entire process and break it all down. Unlike TikTok, it's not allowed.
Gotcha. But I learned something on TikTok from one of your videos about land, and it was you need to know where. Of course, do a survey, but it's also important to know what your land, as far as zoning, will allow, because you could buy land and not be made aware of, hey, it has these little intricacies going on, and now you've invested and you can't do the thing that you originally wanted to do. So going back to my question, what are some common misconceptions about buying and owning land?
I think the biggest thing is entry point. Most people think land is going to be always a cash deal. It's just like any other form of real estate. So I think if we take a step back and we say, okay, you have real estate, that's the hierarchy. And then you have single family homes, you have commercial, you have multifamily, and then you have land. But land is the one thing you need for everything. There is nothing in this lifetime that you can do without land. If you get on a plane and the time of day that we're in, you're hoping you land. If you find yourself stranded at sea, you look for a landmass. This is the one thing you can't circumvent or get around. I even asked ChatGPT, what's something I can do without land? And it says you can use the internet. Excuse me. And then I asked ChatGPT, so where does my fiber optic go? It still has to go through the land. So there's nothing you can do without this. A misconception is you need a lot of money, so they're thinking more of traditional, but sometimes you don't need money. Like you said, if you grew up in a rural area and Miss McFadden from next door, she owns a good bit of acreage, but her kids have moved on. They live in the city now. They're not interested. She's looking to pass that on to someone that keeps her spirit alive. That's what land transference does. We're keeping someone else's legacy alive because we're believing in the dream that they had prior to us. And sometimes, like you talked about, when you speak to those elders, they're giving you that insight as well. So one of the misconceptions is the barrier to entry. The other is, well, if I buy the land, I don't have a place to live. And most people, almost everyone, needs a place to live. So when you buy that land, you don't have to be in a rush to build a house. You can start with a camper. You start with that camper, you live on the land, you start learning about the land. Okay, let's not develop this area because this floods. I want to do more here. The sun rises on this side. These are all small observations, right? So we have these great senses that God has given us, the ability to smell, sight, hearing. These are all things that you're going to understand, right? You're also going to probably be freaked out if you lived in the city and you have so much calmness, stillness, and peace. Then the things like the crickets and the frogs that may agitate you initially because you're not used to it, but you're going to find so much divine serenity in these spaces. So the biggest obstacle, I think, is the barrier to getting into land. People have a misconception because they're thinking about where they live now and where they're going to live in the future when they buy the land. But this is a simple thing. You have people that do Airbnbs utilizing yurts. That's a small canvas-like tent that they put on a display and people pay to come out and do these things. If you get on Instagram and you search nature, you're going to see how much people are paying to go out in nature to experience this. You live in this every single day. You're blessed to wake up in this. So don't let the barrier getting in be the limitation, because loan officers like yourself, you can put them in alignment with the right people that can help them get in. And the secondary thing is group economics. You don't have to go at it alone. The old African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. That's where we're trying to go to in the future.
You said something that really resonated with me, because I tell my youngest son, Jackson, all the time. I said, son, you always want to have land. I said, because if you have land, even if you don't have a home, you can pitch a tent, or you can get a sleeping bag, Marine Corps, get a sleeping bag, pitch a tent. And then from there, camper, like you said, and then from there, build a house or put a mobile home on it. Yeah. So a tiny home, but you got to start with the land,
And you see what my shirt says.
God made land. Thank you for about the barrier. So where can someone go to find and purchase affordable land?
I would say, obviously, the MLS, starting with, I wouldn't go to realtor.com, Zillow, because those are traditional real estate vehicles. I would go someplace like landandfarm.com, Landwatch, few different others I could throw out there, Craigslist, because if you're working with a land agent, just like yourself, he has a real estate license, but he specializes in land. She specializes in land. and they probably were raised around it. So they're going to know the things to look for that a traditional real estate agent, if they're not as versed, they're not going to have that understanding of things that you should be wary of. And hey, this may not be a good opportunity because you don't have easement access. And, that's a huge limitation. So some of the products that I make as far as social media, I have videos where I talk about these things, and I'll do something like, hey, comment land, and I'll send you some steps to get started. And what I send you is a no kidding breakdown of all the considerations. And I do it absolutely for free because I want more people to be in this space. And for me, everything's not about money. It's about how many people can I help transition into this space, because the truth is we need more people growing food, because a lot of people in your audience online and in society, they don't know what famine looks like, but I've seen it firsthand.
Mm, mm. One of the things about land too is that you can generate income from it without even putting a house on it.
Right.
In Williamsburg County, their old model was hunter's paradise, and and so hunters come from all over to hunt in Williamsburg County. And just to prove this point, I was in New Orleans, I think about 2 years ago. No, maybe more like 4 years ago. And we met this gentleman. He was almost 90 years old, and he was spry as a chicken. And so we were asking him, what's your secret? And he's just like, he keeps on the go. He's a doctor. And we were asking him where he was from. He said Augusta, Georgia. And he asked where we were from. We said Kingstree, South Carolina. And he said, oh yeah, I go quail hunting there.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I would have never thought. And this is someone who has patents with, LSU and whatnot. Yeah. And I was just like, about Kingstree? You come there to farm? So that is definitely one way that you can generate income from the land. Can you give us another way that you can generate income from the land?
So let's start with quail. The ones you're describing and characterizing, those are bobwhite quail. So when you have a hunter and they're trying to train their dogs, they're spending about $5 or $6 per bird. If you have a area, that's what you're raising them in, is pretty much a large net. When you see that in someone's backyard and it looks like something you would see at Topgolf, they're actually raising birds that they want to have a certain flight pattern. I raise Cotornic quail. Now, as people have egg prices increases, Cotornic quail reach full adult maturity at 6 weeks. They start laying at 8 weeks. So now you're talking something that's in a small footprint, and now you're producing eggs for yourself, and you're not competing with the grocery store, but you also can sell that to your community. You can do that with laying hens. I have Katahdin sheep. The only inputs they need is minerals and grass and water and shelter. Think about how much land I have, and all they're doing is grazing. Those are my lawnmowers. I don't need to go buy a $60,000 tractor. I have the animals to do it for me. Wow. I can sell the quail manure. I can sell their eggs. I can sell their feathers. For the sheep, I don't have to shear them, but I can sell their manure. I have New Zealand rabbits. I can sell their meat. I can sell their pelts. I can sell their manure as well. So all these animals contribute and make impacts to your soil that just gives you more nutritious value. That's black gold is what we call it. So the fruits that I'm telling you to grow, the plants I'm telling you to grow, you're going to have the most fertile land in your community because of the animal input that you have. You can also do this with trees as well, right? So you're talking now merchandisable timber. When we build these stick homes, these houses, the trees are coming from the land. If you look at the largest landowners in America, the Emerson family, Ted Turner from CNN, he's the second largest private landowner in the United States. But here's one that'll really throw you. Bill Gates is the largest farmland owner in the United States. And you see the initiatives that he's advocating for. So if that doesn't make you weary to own your own land, to grow your own food, then you should be, somewhat concerned about it.
So Tiffany, they're going hot here on the chat. Tiffany Bibbins Black says, I started a garden in my backyard. You can definitely tell the difference between the food. Latasha Alexander says, God made land. You guys stay tuned. We're going to have her on a coffee chat soon. Erica Shannon says, good morning. Latasha also says, my neighbors train pigeons to bet on them racing. And then she says, I have 10 acres, but I don't want to clean up poop. And let's go back to poop. Who would have ever thought that you could sell poop? But then isn't that the best fertilizer in the world?
Yes. And so you have cold manure and hot manure. So my Black Angus cattle, they drop about 50 pounds of manure per day.
What?
Yes, 50 pounds per day per cow. My Cotornic quail, they're going to be dropping about 2.5 pounds per week. So when I start composting that, so you're going to have four elements, right? You learn this in school. You're going to have carbon, you're going to have nitrogen, hydrogen, and oxygen. And then I just turn that over time, let it aerate, and that's going to break down into organic matter. That organic matter is then going to be put into my garden beds, and that's going to give me these massive vegetables. It's going to give me massive tomatoes, squash, zucchini, whatever I'm growing. The difference is what you're buying from the big producers. They're using synthetic fertilizer. They're using synthetic chemicals. And again, you're consuming that in your body. It's just, studies have shown just walking outside barefoot, it lowers the stress levels, the cortisol levels, and everything else. So by virtue of you investing in land, you're investing in your health, but also you're investing in the next generation.
I know you said we should learn this in school. Okay. And I'm telling you, I had that moment where, like, when I was in school, right, I'm like, man, I'm not going to use this. And boom, boy, was I wrong. Oh my God. But you're right about walking bare feet. Growing up, that's how we were. And we rarely ever got sick. We were always joyful. And even now, when I'm stressful, I'll just take off my shoes and my socks and I'll just walk on the grass and I'll just reconnect, ground myself, so that I can take off again.
Right.
Wow. Gosh, this is good. Latasha said, Jesus be a flower bed. Come on now. All right. So what are the biggest advantages to investing in real estate as compared to other assets? I know we got stocks, bonds, we've got insurance, businesses, but why real estate? Give us one advantage to investing in real estate as opposed to the others.
Well, so the low hanging fruit is going to be appreciation, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to increase in value, but like the stock market, that's manipulated. That's by man. You can have a guy that may be an elected official and he may run the United States and he might make a tweet. And that tweet dictates what the market's going to do. He may say deal or no deal, like you saw on the television show. And that could, make the market skyrocket, or it could tank it. But when it comes to land, I can tell you this. I bought 64 acres of land in 2021 for $140,000. I found a good deal. That land is now tripled in value. Because guess what?
Whoa. Let's not gloss over that. When did you buy the land?
2021.
How many acres?
64.
Did you give us the price? Did you say how much?
$140,000, but I'll sweeten the pot for you. The house that was on the land. So I'm in Afghanistan at the time, and I'm a voracious reader. So I look at words because words mean things. So as I look at the description, it says 64-acre of agriculture land with a small farmhouse that needs some TLC. I went through a institution by the name of Arbor One to finance this loan. Arbor One only cared about the land. So when we got the land appraised, it came back at the value of what the asking price was. So I got the house for free. Once I got that house appraised, it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It's now a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. That house is worth about $400,000. So not only did I make equity from the land, triple my value, I also got $400,000 on the front end. And by the time I finished doing all the other inputs, that land would be worth $1 million from a $140,000 investment.
That's my sound effect. Oh, that's definitely going to be a little a segment I put out, that little 30-second. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So we got people going crazy in the comments for that. Latasha says she got 10 acres for $140K. She said that's dope. They also say thank you for your service. That is amazing. We're gonna go back to that. Oh wow. Oh wow. So I'm sorry.
Not only did I get good value for the land and a good investment opportunity, I also partnered with the USDA. So by virtue of the color of my skin, being a veteran, so I'm a disabled veteran, minority veteran, and then disenfranchised farmer. So the USDA gave me about $50,000 for my farm. So that's going to build my fence. That's going to build my fences. Already have a water well. So by virtue of those inputs, that's increasing my land value as well, because now I'm improving the infrastructure. So when you look, this is a win-win, and the government's willing to support you. You probably didn't get your 40 acres, but if you at least take the step and you put yourself in position, and then you start reaping the benefits of the programs designed to help you. The biggest issue that I see in the drawback is we're shying away from things that look like work.
Woo! Well, repeat.
The issue that I see is we're shying away from things that look like work.
Michael Jordan said, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'll make it look too easy. Everybody wanted to be like Mike because Mike made it look easy, but they didn't see the behind the scenes work that this man was doing on a consistent basis.
Well, you know what they say, people are awarded in public for what they practice in private.
Come on now.
Come on now. 10,000 hours. You didn't get to where you are as a top tier real estate professional, real estate broker, and everything else that you've accomplished with the plays and everything else. You did all these things privately, but we only saw it publicly. So we only see the end result. They see the harvest. They don't see the seed being planted.
And that goes back to farming being spiritual. It is so true because that seed takes root and grows in the darkness by itself.
Yeah.
Come on, somebody. So we got a question here. Have you ever heard of renting goats to clear land? If yes, do you recommend it? And where should I start looking? That's from Tiffany Bivens Black.
So I have heard of it. And actually, I follow her on Facebook and we kind of go back and forth. So she could have totally asked me this. But I've heard of it. I personally haven't done it. But the thing I look at is if you bring someone else's animals on your property, and let's say you have a dog and that dog injures that animal, are you going to be held liable for it? Right. So that's number one. So you always have to consider that. But number two, goats are great for cleaning up the underbrush and grazing on your property. But goats can be a problem because I had some goats eat my garden maybe 3 years ago. And they're escape artists. No matter what you build, if you build a 10-foot wall, a goat's going to have an 11-foot ladder.
Oh my God. Escape artist. Awesome. 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 Awesome, Latasha. She's looking to get 100 more acres. Awesome sauce. Sonia says amazing. So people are really digging this episode. Like I said, this is an important episode to me because I don't see a lot of Black farmers, and I definitely don't see farmers who look like you. And then for you to be in the real estate investing space and so knowledgeable and so willing to give of your knowledge and your experience and expertise is just amazing. You really are serious about cultivating the community to be better. You've implemented community gardens. You've taken dilapidated houses and fixed them and provided places for people to live. But also in doing that, you've improved the community by increasing the value of homes around those homes that you fixed up. You are going into your county council meetings. You are giving them great ideas and offering to implement those ideas to improve the community. And you are a Marine veteran. And I just want to say, man, I am just in awe of you. I think that you, and this is no smoke, I don't blow smoke. I think that you are one of the most brilliant people that I've ever met in my lifetime. My father being number one, but I swear, you come in number two. And I just think that you have a brilliant mind. And the great thing about your brilliant mind and your ideas is that you execute, and you are all about group economics and about doing things together. And so you are a rare breed, Davian. And I just want to give you your flowers right here, right now on Coffee Chat.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It has now been 38 minutes. I typically try to keep you at 30 minutes. So I'm going to end this. I want to know, I have one more question. What are you currently reading? And if you're not currently reading anything right now, who do you recommend for people to go and read?
I listen to more online content because I'm moving around a lot. So Audible. The book that I'm reading right now or listening to is Weapons of Mass Instruction. So you're going to look at what the school system used to be, where you had home economics, carpentry, masonry, auto mechanics. Those things have been taken out of school and replaced with, let's say, dance, theater. So we're raising more incapable children because they're not getting that at school. And then if you look at the dating pool or the marriage pool, a lot of people are being raised in single parent households. So you're already exasperated by working and trying to make ends meet. So your kids are going out into the world and they're becoming less and less capable. So when you read the book, Weapons of Mass Instruction, I think the foundation of it is going to be homeschooling, because now you get to teach your kids your principles. And so when you're planting that garden at school and you're growing the food, but if your kid's in public school and they take that tomato to school and they're eating it like an apple or an orange, they're going to be teased about it. So the inputs that we get, just like our gardens, the same thing is true for the next generation. We have to do something more critically structured that's going to benefit them going into the future. So again, Weapons of Mass Instruction, that's how I perceive it. It's probably going to mean something different to other people based on where they are in their life and where they are in their journey.
That's really good. We do financial church about twice a month, and my 5-year-old grandson is just infatuated. He loves it. He loves being able to regurgitate what he's learned. So it's very important, especially I see so many people arguing on social media about schools and how things are, and at the state level, the county level. And to be honest with you, I think we've forgotten that we are our children's first teachers.
Yes.
I think we should go back to that, because everything I learned that I needed to survive in this world was not taught in school. It was taught from my parents and the community that I lived in. So Yeah, Tiffany Bivens Black says, thank you for all the information. I'll have to follow you. I love to follow you. It's always great information. Yes, it is. It's like school when you talk to this man. Latasha Alexander says she loves this. This has really been a great, I think we're going to have to get you back on. It's just so much that you have in that brain housing group of yours that we need to get out to the world. How can people find you?
Well, if you want the unscripted narrative, come over to Instagram. You can find me at Lifting Weights in Real Estate, and then you'll see it from soup to nuts, if you will. We'll show you dispatching animals. We'll show you breaking down an entire pig. We'll show you buying a quarter pig, half a pig, whole pig. Same thing for cows. The reason I do this is because we're trying to encourage group economics. Your household may not need a full cow. So instead, you get your tribe together, the same people that you're on that group chat with. Those are the people you ask those questions to. Those are the people you should be saying, hey, if we're not going to Target, let's get a Costco membership, and we start practicing there. These are basic things that we could do, but we got to start doing them sooner than later.
All right. Well, any closing remarks? Sonia says, yes, come back. And what we'll do, guys, is I'll have you guys send your questions to me ahead of time. And so maybe we'll just do a chat session. But go ahead and give your last 2 minutes of encouraging someone or something you want to leave with the audience today.
Well, I'd leave you with this is, how can you be what you never see? The reason I make emphasis on that is because all of us are role models to someone, whether they're in our household or outside of our household. I'll talk to a stranger and I get so much insight and value. I know a lot, I give a lot, but anybody can learn from anybody. So step outside of yourself and try to interact with people, because you'll be surprised what information they impart to you.
Good stuff. And I want to leave you guys with, if you are looking to purchase a home or refinance a home, come check us out at loanswithsueham.com. And much like my Marine brother veteran, Davian, I love to give a lot of information. So you can find my YouTube channel on there with loads of free information. And you can also find the application to apply for a home loan. I want to thank you once again, Davian, for coming on, sharing your time, your expertise. Again, guys, you can find him on Instagram. Let me find it real quick. Lifting Weights and Real Estate. I guess you lift weights, huh?
Just a little.
Oh, we can see it. So make sure you go out and connect with him. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday. We got some more great interviews coming up. We've got some credit repair. I like to say credit improvement. We have a gentleman for credit improvement, because wording, right? Wording is everything. And we've got, you've seen her real chatty here today, Miss Latasha Alexander. She's going to be coming on. We got a schedule with her. She's a serial entrepreneur, multimillionaire, does it through travel, creating courses for other people. So I'm not going to spoil it. You just got to stay tuned. Coffee chats every Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you can't catch it live, catch the replay, but make sure you share it with somebody. Thank you, David. We appreciate you. Blessings to all of you watching. See you next Thursday.
Take care.